The stingray spine punctures through for the seventh time, and the 16-year-old Maya prince's scream finally breaks into something inhuman. Blood pools beneath him on strips of bark paper, each drop payment to gods who never seem satisfied. His trembling hands guide the spine through tender flesh, not in madness, but in the most sacred ritual his civilization knows. The thorny rope waits its turn, coiled like a serpent beside the jade altar. This isn't torture, this is a job interview with the universe itself. In the smoke-filled temple chamber at Copan, priests watch with calculating eyes. One failure, one flinch too many, one refusal to continue, and this boy will lose more than his claim to the throne. He'll lose his cosmic legitimacy, his divine right to exist as nobility. His name is Itzamna, and in 3 hours, he will either emerge as a divine king or crawl away as nothing. The rope begins its journey through the wounds the spine has carved. Before we descend into one of history's most sophisticated theologies of suffering, hit that subscribe button for medieval spirits. Because what you're about to discover is how the Maya built an entire civilization on the belief that the universe was a dying machine, requiring constant blood fuel. How teenage princes competed to endure the most extreme genital mutilation to prove divine worthiness. How queens pierced their tongues with thorned rope to access prophecy. How warfare became systematic capture of enemy nobles as cosmic batteries. How ritual cannibalism recycled divine life force. How even farmers bled daily onto corn seeds. How psychedelic drugs combined with bloodletting created reliable divine communication, and how when drought hit around 820 CE, escalating blood sacrifice accelerated the collapse that emptied their cities by 900 CE. This isn't primitive superstition. The Maya were astronomers who predicted eclipses, mathematicians who invented zero. Now, let's watch a teenage boy pay the cosmic price in the currency of his own flesh. The preparation began 3 weeks before the first spine would taste blood. Young Itzamna hasn't eaten solid food in 10 days. His stomach has moved past hunger into a strange floating emptiness that makes the world shimmer. The isolation chamber beneath the temple, no light, no sound except dripping water, has broken down barriers between waking and sleeping. By the time priests come for him, he can't tell if serpents crawling on walls are painted or alive. The hallucinogens are just beginning to take hold. The morning glory seeds, carefully counted 13, always 13, have been ground with cacao and mixed with venom milked from the sacred toad. Itzamna drinks the mixture as dawn breaks. Within minutes, stone faces carved into temple walls begin to breathe. Their eyes follow him as priests lead him to the bloodletting chamber. Here's what makes this ritual devastatingly logical. The Maya truly desperately believed that without these payments of royal blood, the sun wouldn't rise tomorrow. Not metaphorically, literally. The universe was a dying machine, and noble blood was its only fuel. The first spine comes from a stingray caught in sacred waters during the new moon, longer than a man's hand, serrated like a saw, blessed with the power to open doorways between worlds. Itzamna has to guide it himself. No priest can help. The gods want to see personal commitment. The spine enters just below the head of his penis, pushed through with deliberate slowness. Not too fast, that shows cowardice. Not too slow, that suggests hesitation. The pain has texture, color, sound. It tastes like copper and rings like bronze bells. Blood begins flowing onto bark paper below, each drop forming glyphs. Priests will later read like letters from the gods. 6 more times. 6 more entries at different angles, creating a crown of wounds. Between each penetration, Itzamna has to recite ancestors' names, call upon gods by their secret names, maintain consciousness despite shock trying to drag him under. Other noble boys have failed here, fainted, vomited, refused to continue. They lived as shadows, forever marked as too weak to carry divine responsibility. Now comes the rope. 3 arm lengths of Maggie fiber, each strand embedded with thorns no bigger than fish scales but sharp enough to catch and tear. The rope has soaked for days in the blood of sacrificed quails, in honey, in juice of psychoactive mushrooms. As Itzamna pulls, as priests chant, his vision explodes into geometries of light. He sees the gods waiting behind reality's veil, their hands extended for payment. And he understands that if male nobles bleed from their genitals for kingship, female nobles must bleed from somewhere equally intimate for prophecy. Lady Zook bites down on the leather strap as her attendants bring forth the rope. The Queen of Yaxchilan has fasted for 20 days, drinking only Balch-fermented honey mixed with sacred tree bark. Her tongue, swollen from ritual preparations, protrudes between her teeth. The jade bowl beneath her chin waits to catch what will come. Unlike her husband's public bloodletting, this happens in the inner sanctum, witnessed only by the goddess Ixchel's marble eyes. The rope has been specially prepared, a cord made from human hair, each strand taken from a woman who died in childbirth, braided with fibers from hallucinogenic morning glory vine. The thorns embedded in it come from the sacred ceiba tree, each one no longer than an eyelash but sharp enough to pierce the veil between worlds. The first pass of the rope through her tongue opens a channel not just through flesh, but through reality itself. Lady Zook's attendants have pierced the organ with obsidian needles, creating a hole that weeps blood and saliva. Now the rope will pass through, back and forth, back and forth. Each movement tears the wound wider, while thorns catch and release, catch and release. Blood fills her mouth hot, metallic, alive with power. She can't swallow, can't spit. It overflows the jade bowl, spatters bark paper spread beneath her knees. But this isn't simple bloodletting. This is Kuhul Bak, the sacred opening. And through her pierced tongue will come the words of gods. The vision serpent manifests first as smoke. Copal incense mixed with blood-soaked paper burning in braziers creates clouds that shouldn't hold shape, but do. The serpent's head emerges from Lady Zook's own mouth, born from her blood and pain, its body coiling toward the chamber's painted ceiling, its scales made of stars. From the serpent's jaws emerges the figure she's been seeking, an ancestor dead for centuries, his mouth opening to speak prophecy. But the rope has to keep moving. Even as visions consume her consciousness, even as divine voices flood her awareness, Lady Zook's hands must maintain the rhythm pull through, reverse, pull through. The thorns have transformed her tongue into a tunnel of wounds, each one a tiny mouth, speaking its own prayer. When Lady Zook emerges from this chamber days from now, her prophecies will guide military campaigns, determine succession, declare which captives live and which feed the altars. Her words, born from blood and suffering, will carry more weight than any king's command because they come directly from God's mouths. The gender division reveals something profound. Men bleed from penises, the source of procreative power and worldly authority. Women bleed from tongues, the organ of speech and divine communication. Both are sexual in the deepest sense, involving the most intimate and vulnerable parts of the body. Both require practitioners to consciously choose agony in pursuit of cosmic connection. And both operate on the same theological principle that should terrify you once you fully understand it. The Maya didn't see the universe as a stable, eternal machine. They saw it as a dying patient on life support, and that life support ran on human suffering. This wasn't metaphor or primitive superstition. This was observed reality, backed by 1,000 years of theological calculation. Think of gods as machines requiring specific fuel, not benevolent creators resting after their labors, but desperate entities locked in eternal combat with chaos. The sun god Kinich Ajah died every night, literally died, and had to be resurrected through blood sacrifice to fight his way across the sky again. The maize god was perpetually dismembered and needed human suffering to reconstitute. Even the rain god Chak demanded payment before releasing life-giving waters. But why blood? Why specifically sexual blood? The Maya creation myth provides the answer, and it's darker than modern minds can comfortably grasp. In the beginning, the gods masturbated the universe into existence. This isn't crude mythology, this is sophisticated cosmological theory. The first god pierced his penis with a thorn, and from the flowing blood mixed with semen came the primal waters. The goddess Ixchel received this bloody emission, and from it birthed the world. Creation itself was a sexual wound that never healed, leaking Ku divine life force at a catastrophic rate. Now imagine your electricity bill, but paid in pain. The Maya calculated the exact exchange rate between human suffering and cosmic stability. A drop of ear blood might keep a star burning for an hour. A pierced tongue could fuel the moon for a night, but genital bloodletting? That was premium currency. The pain was more intense, the symbolism more potent, the Ku extracted more pure. The mathematics of suffering were precise. Priests kept careful records, tracking which types of bloodletting produced which results. They noticed patterns. Droughts ended after royal penis bloodletting, enemy armies retreated after queens bled from their tongues, crops flourished when children offered blood from their earlobes. This wasn't coincidence to them, this was cause and effect, as clear as dropping a stone and watching it fall. Remember, these weren't crazy people. These were sophisticated astronomers who could predict eclipses centuries in advance, engineers who built cities that still stand today, mathematicians who invented zero independently. When they said the universe needed blood to survive, they meant it with the same certainty that we say the Earth orbits the sun. The sexual component wasn't arbitrary. The Maya understood that sexual energy and life force were inextricably linked. But if the universe needed constant feeding, where would they find enough sacrificial fuel? The answer: transformed warfare forever. The war party ignores the gold, the jade, even the grain stores. They're hunting for something far more valuable. Lord Smoking Squirrel of Naranjo leads his warriors through jungle paths, their faces painted with the black of war and the blue of the hunt. They've been tracking the royal convoy from Karakol for 3 days. This isn't about territory or treasure, this is about capturing human batteries for the cosmic machine. The Maya don't wage war like other civilizations. Cities rarely change hands. Populations aren't enslaved en masse. Instead, warfare is a careful harvesting operation, as precise as collecting rubber from trees without killing them. You want the enemy city to survive, to recover, to raise another generation of nobles whose blood will one day flow on your altars. Sustainable sacrifice, that's the key to long-term cosmic maintenance. The ambush erupts at dawn. Smoking Squirrel's warriors burst from concealment, but their weapons tell the real story. Weighted nets, blunted spears designed to stun, not kill. Obsidian clubs with carefully filed edges that will incapacitate without causing fatal wounds. This isn't battle, this is a shopping trip with violence. Prince Cacao Seed of Karakol fights magnificently, which only increases his value. The harder a noble resists, the more divine life force he clearly possesses. His personal guard dies around him, but attackers take elaborate care to keep the prince himself alive. A dead royal is worthless. A living one can power the cosmos for months. Both sides understand the rules. Cacao Seed knows that if captured, he faces not immediate death, but months, possibly years, of carefully managed bloodletting before his final sacrifice. He'll be treated with honor, fed finest foods, given comfortable quarters, even allowed to participate in rituals. He'll become a living battery, drained slowly to maximize output. The mathematics of capture are precise. A king is worth approximately 100 commoners in terms of coup extraction. A royal prince might equal 50. A noble warrior, perhaps 10. The Maya don't practice indiscriminate slaughter because it's inefficient. Why waste precious coup by spilling it on jungle floors when it could be carefully collected on sacred altars? The captured nobles often agree with their fate. They've grown up in the same theological system, believe the same cosmic truths. Many go to the altars willingly, even eagerly, knowing their deaths will ensure the sunrise, bring the rains, keep the universe spinning for another cycle. The journey back to Naranjo takes 5 days. Cacao seed is carried in a palanquin, fed fruit and honeyed water, treated with the deference due to sacred cargo. By the time they reach the city, the population lines the streets, not jeering at an enemy, but welcoming a holy figure whose blood will ensure their survival. Once captured, these human batteries face a fate where execution becomes the merciful part. The blue paint feels cool against his skin, the last gentle touch he will ever feel. Prince Cacao Seed stands atop the pyramid of Naranjo 2 months after his capture. Priests have been painting him since dawn, covering every inch of skin with sacred blue made from clay and indigo. This isn't decoration, this is transformation. The blue turns captives into temporary avatars of the rain god Chak, their deaths becoming not executions, but divine metamorphoses. Below in the plaza, 10,000 people watch in religious ecstasy. The drums match heartbeats, boom boom, boom boom, creating a rhythm that seems to emerge from the earth itself. Here's what most people get. Maya sacrificed wrong. They imagine screaming victims dragged to their deaths. But Cacao Seed kneels willingly, even eagerly. The drugs help certainly Balch, morning glory seeds, wild tobacco, but more powerful is a lifetime of theological conditioning. He's about to feed the cosmos directly. The flint knife is a masterpiece of ritual technology. Napped from a single piece of obsidian, sharper than surgical steel, the chief priest himself, high on the same drug cocktail, positions it below Cacao Seed's sternum. The cut will go up and left between the ribs, straight to the heart, quick, precise, practiced. The extraction takes 4 seconds. The priest's hand plunges through the opening, grasps the still beating heart, and yanks. The arteries snap like harp strings. Cacao Seed's eyes remain open, conscious for perhaps another heartbeat, watching his own organ held high above the priest's head. The crowd's roar shakes the pyramid stones. The heart isn't just removed, it's fed to the gods while still beating. The priest presses it against the mouth of Chake's stone statue, blood running down carved channels designed to direct the flow into sacred vessels. Each pulse sends Ka directly into the divine digestive system. The gods are drinking life itself, still warm, still moving. Cacao Seed's body, now just empty architecture, tumbles down the pyramid steps. But even this is part of the ritual. The corpse will be carefully butchered, not as meat, but as sacred relics. His skull will join thousands in the Tzompantli. His blood will be mixed with copal incense and burned. But removal of the heart is just the beginning. The priest's hands tremble, not from revulsion, but from reverence, as they prepare the flesh. What happens next isn't cannibalism as we understand it, not hunger, not savagery, not even dominance. This is sacred metabolization, the careful recycling of Ku through human digestive systems. The butchering follows protocols unchanged for centuries. The flesh designated for eating, primarily from arms and thighs, is boiled with sacred herbs. Chili peppers open divine channels. Hallucinogenic mushrooms ensure that eating becomes a visionary experience. Lord Smoking Squirrel, as the victorious war captain, receives the right hand. He eats it slowly, reverently, feeling Cacao Seed's Ku merging with his own. The Maya believed that consuming an enemy's flesh literally transferred their spiritual power to the eater. You became what you ate in the most profound sense possible. But the elites weren't the only ones feeding this hungry universe. Before sunrise, the farmer Ital slices his earlobe, letting drops fall onto each corn seed. His blood isn't noble, his skull wasn't shaped in infancy, his teeth bear no jade inlays, his blood will never flow on pyramid altars. But the cosmic hunger doesn't distinguish by class. Every Maya person, from king to slave, owes the universe a blood debt that accumulates interest daily. For commoners like Ital, payment comes in small but constant installments. The morning bloodletting is just the beginning. As he places each corn kernel in the earth, a drop of his blood goes with it, payment to the maize god for hopeful growth. His wife, Achna, has already bled from her earlobes onto the hearthstones, ensuring the fire god will keep their cooking flames alive. Their 6-year-old son will soon make his first offering, learning that existence itself requires negotiation through pain. The agricultural blood tax is precise, not random suffering, but calculated payments for specific outcomes. 3 drops per seed during normal planting, 7 during drought, 13 if the previous harvest failed. The blood mixed with earth creates a supernatural fertilizer that connects human life force directly to crop growth. Children learn early. By age 6, they're making small offerings from their earlobes. By 10, they can pierce their own tongues for minor rituals. By puberty, they're full participants in the blood economy, their bodies producing the currency that keeps their world stable. The first bloodletting is celebrated like a first word or first step, a milestone marking entry into cosmic citizenship. Imagine knowing that your family's survival depended not just on hard work, but on how much pain you could endure. Every failed crop meant you hadn't bled enough. Every sick child suggested insufficient offerings. Every stroke of bad luck could be traced to some missed payment in blood. The Maya lived under constant cosmic audit, their suffering never quite sufficient. The archaeological evidence is heartbreaking. Commoner burials show bones pitted from chronic anemia, children's skeletons reveal growth interruptions corresponding to bloodletting schedules, adult remains display arthritis in joints, stressed by blood loss-induced weakness. The Maya were literally bleeding themselves into early graves, their bodies worn out by constant cosmic taxation. The most insidious aspect was how normalized it became. Etal didn't question why he needed to bleed on his corn seeds, any more than modern people question why they need to pay electric bills. It was simply how the universe worked. The bleeding was as routine as breathing, as necessary as eating. To not bleed was to be a cosmic freeloader, stealing existence without payment. If Etal bled 3 drops per corn seed and planted 100 seeds daily during planting season and added his morning hearth offering and his pre-meal Thanksgiving and his tool blessing before work, he might lose a cup of blood weekly just to maintain basic existence. Multiply that by every adult in a city, and the commoner blood tax dwarfed noble sacrifices in sheer volume. But blood alone wasn't enough to access the divine. They needed chemical keys to unlock the doorways. The toad's venom mixed with morning glory seeds creates a cocktail that opens doorways to divine realms with scientific precision. The Maya weren't primitive shamans stumbling onto random plants. They were sophisticated psychopharmacologists who mapped chemical pathways to the gods. In temple laboratories at Palenque, priest chemists bred specific strains of morning glory for maximum lysergic acid content. They milked bufo toads during particular lunar phases when their venom glands produced the most 5-MeO-DMT. The recipe for the standard Vision Quest brew is as precise as any modern pharmaceutical formula. 13 morning glory seeds, crushed but not powdered, venom from 1 adult male bufo toad collected fresh, 3 dried mushrooms of the Psilocybe mexicana variety, wild tobacco, concentrated through repeated boiling balch bark, fermented for exactly 9 days. Mixed wrong, the concoction is merely hallucinogenic. Mixed right, it's a reliable technology for accessing divine dimensions. But the drugs are just the beginning. The preparation of the body matters as much as the preparation of the chemicals. 20 days of fasting reduces the user to a state where the blood-brain barrier becomes permeable. Sexual abstinence accumulates Ku that can be explosively released during the trip. Most crucially, the systematic bloodletting before ingestion creates a state of hypovolemic shock that amplifies the psychedelic's effects exponentially. The Maya discovered that pain itself is a psychedelic. The endorphins released during bloodletting create an altered state that external chemicals can build upon. They mapped the timing precisely. Pierce the penis or tongue first. Let the endorphin flood peak. then ingest the brew. While the body's own painkillers are creating internal hallucinations, the external drugs synergize into experiences that shatter normal consciousness. The progression of the divine journey is entirely predictable. The Maya have mapped it like astronomers mapping star movements. First come the serpents. Always the serpents. Vision serpents born from blood and smoke, their scales made of stars, their mouths speaking in mathematical equations. Then the jaguars, representing the night sun's journey through the underworld. Finally, if dosage and timing are perfect, direct communication with the gods themselves. The Maya have created a chemical telephone system to divine realms. The precision extended to the vision's content. Priests recorded thousands of trip reports noting patterns and correlations. They discovered that fasting for exactly 20 days produced visions of the future. 25 days brought visions of the past. 30 days opened doorways to alternate realities where different choices had been made. This wasn't mysticism, but empirical observation refined over generations. But the technology had a dark price. The combination of blood loss, fasting, and powerful psychedelics created experiences so intense that many users never fully returned. Priests who overused the sacred cocktails developed what we might recognize as persistent hallucinogenic perception disorder, unable to distinguish baseline reality from the cosmic overlay. And when the terminal classic drought hit around 820 CE, this entire blood-soaked system was about to devour itself. The drought entered its third year, and careful ritual gave way to panicked slaughter. Copan had always prided itself on doing things properly. Bloodletting schedules were precise. Sacrifices followed ancient protocols. But as maize withered in fields and reservoirs turned to cracked mud, something fundamental broke in the Maya cosmic equation. If measured suffering could maintain the universe, what happened when the universe stopped responding to the usual payments? Tree rings show the drought beginning around 820 CE. Decreased rainfall led to crop failure. Crop failure led to increased sacrifice to appease Chak. Increased sacrifice led to warfare for captives. Warfare disrupted agricultural cycles. Disrupted agriculture worsened famine. The feedback loop tightened like a noose. King Smoke Shell of Copan ordered the unthinkable mass sacrifice of his own nobles. The cosmic battery system only worked with high-grade coup concentrated in royal blood, but enemy cities were suffering the same drought, hoarding their own nobles. The king turned inward, demanding his courtiers' children for the altars. The abandonment of ritual precision marked the beginning of the end. Where once a single heart extraction took hours of preparation, now dozens died daily in assembly line slaughter. The blue paint ran out. The sacred drugs were replaced with crude pulque. The prayers were shortened, then skipped entirely. This wasn't cosmic maintenance anymore. This was desperate bargaining with an unresponsive universe. The archaeological evidence from Copan's final years is heartbreaking. Hastily dug mass graves filled with nobles identifiable by their cranial deformation and jade dental inlays. Altars so thick with blood deposits they had to be abandoned for new ones. The complete absence of enemy captives because Copan was eating itself. Here's the cosmic irony that broke Maya civilization. Their solution accelerated their destruction. Every tree cut for sacrificial fires worsened erosion. Every farmer pulled from fields for ritual duty meant less food production. Every noble bloodlet to death meant fewer competent administrators. The city-states were performing civilizational bloodletting, weakening themselves precisely when they needed maximum strength. By 900 CE, the great cities were abandoned. The climate data shows the drought finally breaking around 900 CE, but by then, it was too late. The theological damage was irreversible. How do you rebuild a civilization based on blood sacrifice, when blood sacrifice has demonstrably failed? The Maya faced not just environmental collapse, but complete cosmological bankruptcy. What they discovered in those final years shattered everything they believed. The universe didn't need their blood after all. The sun rose without sacrifices. The rain came or didn't come regardless of suffering. The cosmic machine they'd spent 1,000 years maintaining had either never existed or had found another power source. The Maya had bled themselves white for nothing. Which brings us back to that temple, that boy, that seventh spine piercing flesh. Prince Itzamna pulls the seventh spine free, blood running in rivulets down his thighs. But now we understand what hangs in the balance. This isn't just a prince proving manhood or claiming his throne. This is a 16-year-old boy carrying the weight of a dying universe on his shoulders. Each drop that falls onto bark paper below is a payment against an infinite debt, a sacrifice to entities that might not even exist. The rope begins its journey through the wounds the spines have carved. We can see him now not as a primitive savage, but as a young man trapped in a theological prison built by 40 generations of ancestors. Every meter of thorned rope that passes through his flesh is a prayer for rain that might not come, for crops that might fail regardless, for a sunrise that will happen whether he bleeds or not. Within a generation, Copan too will be empty, its altars abandoned, its pyramids silent. Itzamna's blood, like the blood of millions before him, will buy only temporary reprieve from a collapse that was theological rather than environmental. The Maya had created a worldview where the only solution to suffering was more suffering, where the only answer to divine hunger was human flesh. The horror of Maya blood sacrifice wasn't in its brutality, but in its logic. Every step made sense within their cosmological framework. If you truly believed the universe was dying, if you truly believed human suffering could revive it, then what they did was not just reasonable, but heroic. The modern Maya still carry echoes of this burden. In San Juan Chamula, chickens die in churches to satisfy saints who wear both Catholic and pagan faces. In the highlands of Guatemala, farmers still mix blood with corn seeds, just a drop now. A cultural memory of when the payment was so much more. So, here's my challenge to you, and it's not abstract. When you see systems that demand constant sacrifice for the greater good, recognize the pattern. When authorities tell you suffering is necessary to maintain cosmic order, whether that cosmos is the economy, national security, or social stability, ask whose blood is being collected and who's doing the collecting. When ideologies promise that just a little more pain, a little more sacrifice, will finally fix everything, remember Copan's empty pyramids. Subscribe to Medieval Spirits and share this video so others understand how blood debt logic operates. Leave a comment telling me what modern systems demand suffering as payment for stability, because the Maya aren't ancient history, they're a warning. Every civilization that builds its foundation on the theology of necessary pain eventually bleeds itself to death. Prince Itzamna rose from the altar, transformed by agony into divine kingship. His blood purchased another day, another season, another year of pretending the cosmic machine still functioned. He couldn't know he was one of the last to pay the price, that soon the altars would fall silent and the gods would have to admit they'd never been hungry at all. Will you recognize the altars in your own world before they're built too high to tear down?